The Schumer-Rounds Amendment has been passed into law. That's right, the NDAA has been signed by President Joe Biden. So let's talk about it. Get in here. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like and subscribe. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. Yeah, I'm wearing the Santa hat right now because that's what I wanted for Christmas was UFO disclosure. And we are one step toward getting there now. This is huge. Now, I have some reservations about the Schumer-Rounds Amendment. I'll admit it. I mean, Chuck Schumer is literally in business with Lockheed Martin. Danny Sheehan wanted to appoint a former director of the CIA to the review board. The gatekeeper, right? One of the main gatekeepers of information and part of the cover-up. So there was entirely too much of the establishment in the Schumer-Rounds Amendment for my taste, but that's okay. We needed the Schumer-Rounds Amendment. We need something like the Schumer-Rounds Amendment, and it has been passed. Not in a very robust form. Unfortunately, they are more or less just throwing us a bone. But hey, it's a bone. It's a bone. It's a UFO bone. UFO disclosure bone. So let's go over some of it. This is from Dean Johnson. President Biden signs the FY 2024 National Defense Authorization Act, but notes a caveat with respect to one of the UAP related provisions. President Biden today signed into law the NDAA. In a formal signing statement, the president listed one of the Act's UAP-related provisions, Section 1687, as among several provisions that would require submission of highly sensitive classified information to Congress, and said that the administration will presume a right to comply with these provisions in a manner not specified that it believes protects national security. The pertinent portion of the signing statement appears below. Section 1687 denies funding for Department of Defense special access programs involving UAP unless the Secretary of Defense has provided the details of the activity to the appropriate congressional committees and congressional leadership. So they're going to try to cut off funding to the UFO control group unless they can provide the details of the activity. So, yeah, that's interesting. So the UFO control group can continue to get funding if they fess up to Congress. That's interesting. But, surely some of the people on the intelligence committees are part of this, right? So, they would already know. But, that's assuming. The just signed NDAA contains 4 UAP-related provisions. For more details on these provisions in a complete text, go to the quick guide to the UAP-related provisions in the final NDAA by clicking the link. The just signed NDAA contains 4 provisions relating to UAP. 3 of these substantive and 1 merely a minor adjustment pertaining to an annual report. And let's just go down to those provisions. Section 1687, limitation on the use of funds for certain unreported programs. This section denies funding for Department of Defense special access programs involving UAP, unless the Secretary of Defense has provided the details of the activity to the appropriate congressional committees and congressional leadership. It also states that such research is not allowable as indirect expenses under independent research and development funding, unless such material and information is made available to the appropriate congressional committees and congressional leadership. Interesting. Update. In a formal signing statement issued when he signed the NDAA into law, President Biden listed 1687 as among several provisions of the act that would require submission of highly sensitive classified information to Congress. The president said that the administration will presume a right to comply with these provisions in a manner that it believes protects national security. The signing statement did not specify the nature of those adjustments. Images of the president's complete signing paper appear at the bottom of the article. Sections 1841 to 1843, UAP. These sections contain the remnants of the much more expansive UAP Disclosure Act that had been included in the earlier Senate-passed version of the NDAA. The final bill text requires the Archivist of the United States to form a collection of documents from throughout the government, both classified and unclassified, that pertain to UAP, technologies of unknown origin, and non-human intelligence. None of these terms are defined in the bill or in the JES. The archivist presumably will have to come up with working definitions and on a short time frame. So there's no definition for non-human intelligence. Interesting. I would, obviously it would be a stronger and more interesting bill if it would define what that means. The bill provides for the release of some records, but the continued withholding of other records at the discretion of the individual agencies. All of the covered records are to be released 25 years after creation, except cases in which the president certifies that continued withholding is necessary to prevent harm to military defense, intelligence operations, law enforcement, or conduct of foreign relations. So what is going to be their excuse for withholding the Roswell files from us and all the other UFO crashes and retrievals over the years, right? Is Roswell really national security? Come on. This is ridiculous. But hey, maybe they will. Maybe they'll pony up with the Roswell files. What do you think? Is that possible? Unlikely, right? Unlikely. Okay, here's an interesting section, section 7341. This section provides that in the future, the annual summary UAP reports, unclassified, classified, already required by previously enacted laws, will be released/submitted to Congress by AARO, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, and its director, rather than the Secretary of Defense and the Director of National Intelligence. So the position of AARO is, I don't know if elevated is the right word, but, certainly cemented by this legislation as being the prime, agency or entity responsible for UFOs. So that's really interesting. At least that's my read on it at the moment. Let me know if you have a different take on it. But so AARO is definitely a big part of this, and as it should be theoretically if it were functioning correctly and transparently. But that has not been the case at the moment or to date. So I have doubts about AARO going forward. Hopefully we'll get somebody like Carl Mill in as the director, but more likely we're going to get Sean Kirkpatrick 2.0. So we'll see. Funding limitations relating to UAP. This section denies funding for restricted access programs funded through authorizations provided under the Intelligence Authorization Act involving UAP unless the Director of National Intelligence has provided the details of the activity to the appropriate congressional committees and congressional leadership. JES page 1205, the conference committee notes that it dropped the House-passed provision, the Tim Burchett Amendment, which would have told the Department of Defense to release classified records dealing with publicly known UAP sightings unless the agency thought there was a national security reason to decline to release them. So the Tim Burchett Amendment is not part of this, which would have provided more transparently on publicly known sightings. And of course, there are countless publicly known sightings, so that could have theoretically given us a lot. But that's not part of it. I mean, Roswell is publicly known, right? Oh well. Why didn't they include that? Yeah, right. JES pages 13, 11 to 12. These pages contain explanatory material on Bill Section 1687, where they're cutting off the funding to the special access programs, noting that the conference committee removed the Senate-passed requirement that the UAP-related special access programs provide certain UAP-related information and materials to ARROW. The JES notes that as finalized, Section 1687 could cover a list of specific types of activities, including analyzing such craft or pieces of components thereof, and actions relating to reverse engineering or replicating UAP technology or performance. So why did they remove that section, right? The Senate passed a requirement that UAP-related special access programs provide certain UAP-related information and materials to ARROW. You know, that is interesting. I mean, obviously that smacks of cover-up, right? And the control group influence. The control group doesn't want to pony up with their information and materials. But what was their justification for that? You know, how do they convince the other members to go along with that? The other members of the conference committee that presumably weren't co-opted by the control group. I guess just the powerful people that were able to exert their influence. You know, I don't know how they get away with this, guys. I really don't. But I mean, I guess money talks and power talks. JES page 1330. This pertains to Bill sections 41 to 43, tersely summarizing the changes made by the conference committee in the Senate-passed UAP Disclosure Act, including the removal of the Senate-passed provisions that would establish an independent review board, a review board staff, eminent domain authority, or a controlled disclosure process. So basically all the good stuff, right? Also found here is a paragraph expressing concerns about lack of sufficient reciprocal access between DoD and intelligence community personnel that led to operational inefficiencies and unnecessary risk of disclosures of protected information and requiring briefings to the Congressional Armed Services and Intelligence Committees on such issues. It is unclear to me what perceived problem is being discussed here. Section 7343 of the Act provides for funding limitations relating to UAP because of perceptions of insufficient transparency in this area. Perceptions, yeah, right? It may exist, it may not exist. Section 7343 is also intended to avoid technology and security stovepipes and expand awareness regarding any historical exotic technology antecedents previously provided by the federal government for research and development purposes, if they are shown to exist. So yeah, we could get some juicy stuff there, right? But first they have to find it. They have to show it to exist. And that's really kind of the thing with all of this, right? How can they cut off funding to programs they can't find? You know, yeah, I mean, they've been hiding this stuff for a long time, but hey, you know, maybe they can find this stuff. Are they going to appoint somebody to find it? Is there going to be, you know, some hound dogs that are appointed to go looking and sniffing for this stuff? You know, I don't know. Section 7343 further provides a limitation regarding independent research and development funding to ensure that certain indirect expenses are prohibited. That provision is intended to be interpreted consistent with the Department Defense Instruction Number 3204.01. Let's see, or any successor instruction. Oh, and this might be significant. The NDAA is an authorization policy bill. It does not directly fund the programs that it authorizes. The funds ordinarily would be made available through a separate measure, the FY 2024 Defense Appropriations Bill, which has not yet been enacted. Defense and intelligence programs, like the rest of the government, are currently being funded under a temporary measure called a continuing resolution. So, you know, I don't know what in here really requires a lot of funding. There's no review board. There's no, you know, and there's nothing really in it. No meat that really needs a lot of funding. But what there is has not actually been funded yet. Oh, and this is also interesting. Statement from President Joe Biden on the NDAA. Certain provisions of the act would require the president and other officials to submit reports and plans to committees of the Congress that will, in the ordinary course, include highly sensitive classified information, including information that could reveal critical intelligence sources or military operational plans, or could implicate executive branch confidentiality interests. The Constitution vests the president with the authority to prevent the disclosure of such highly sensitive information in order to discharge his responsibilities. So there you go. To protect national security. So they can withhold anything they want to withhold. In sum, this seems like a very weak amendment, very weak UFO Disclosure Act. Not much of a UFO Disclosure Act. It's really not. Doesn't really justify the hat, to be honest. But it is more than the government has ever done before. Which is not much. It's not much at all. But they do use the words non-human intelligence in a bill that was signed by the President of the United States. That alone, I think, merits the hat. But we're not seemingly getting a lot out of this. However, it's early days yet. The secret isn't in the language necessarily, it's in how it's enacted. So we will see, how they carry this bill out and what they are willing to release. Obviously, it's been more than 25 years since Roswell. Will we get that information and all the other known incidents that they have? Roswell would not just include ships and reverse engineering. There's one or multiple ships included in Roswell. Some say there were multiple vehicles involved. Even Lou Elizondo has alluded to that. But there were also biologics. There were bodies, maybe even a living being that was taken into custody by the Air Force or the proto-Air Force of the time. So, what will come of all of this? What will they give us? They threw us a bone with the Schumer-Rounds amendment. Is there any meat at all on that bone? Time will tell, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this video, give it a big thumbs up. I sure appreciate it. Smash the subscribe button. If you wanted to support Cosmic Road in an even bigger way, please consider buying some merch in the merch store below or by becoming a channel member, because channel members are rock stars and I really appreciate you guys' support. See the links below. There's plenty of other videos to check out on the channel, and I'll see you guys next time. This is Jack with Cosmic Road signing out.